Good morning, everyone. Today we will cover alternative methods of approaching literary criticism. Up to this point in your educations, many of you have been asked to view literature as a statement made by an author. Look at literary elements like plot, character, metaphor, symbols to reconstruct the intent of the writer. This is generally the foundation imparted when teaching literary analysis. There are, however, other ways of approaching the reading of text. This is called literary theory. Imagine you have a different set of glasses, all with distinct different prescriptions that will change the way you see things. This would be literary theory. There are many different schools of thought around which literary theories have been created. For example, after studying, say, Marxist theory, critics would apply the elements of that theory to literature. This would open up the readings into very different nuances. Before we start, one of the things you want to suspend is wondering whether or not the author intended this meaning. Because we can never accurately reconstruct authorial intent, we should not see it actually as an obstacle to applying literary theory. We will begin with one of the more exciting literary theories based on the fundamentals of psychoanalysis. As you know, there are many theories associated with this practice, but the one we will focus on is Freudian analysis. Although many of Freud's theories have been challenged and revised over the years, we will view him as sort of a foundational figure. Later, you will expand your knowledge by exploring the theories of other psychologists. So, the quick about Freud. From Vienna, he started out in his practice, and he really focused on nervous anxiety disorders. He saw the human personality as a thing that had to be modulated in order to fit into society. He was also one of the pioneers of dream analysis, and he saw dreams as sort of the language of the unconscious mind. So much of our use of psychoanalytic literary theory will employ the same strategies, like reading the events of dreams as symbols or of underlying issues within the psyche. So, a couple of his main theories. Let's get a quick overview. One, humans, for the most part, are born with three natural drives: drive for food, for shelter, and for sex. These are associated with an energy or life force known as the libido. We use this energy to individuate or to order our psyches. Next, Freud was not the first one to come up with this, but he felt the mind was divided into two spheres, the conscious and the unconscious. He had a third place called the preconscious, but he later recanted or redacted that theory. The conscious is what you are aware of, your active thinking, while your unconscious is all of your innate drives, thoughts, dreaming, etc. And all these things are not within the conscious. Sometimes you have drives or desires that come from this unconscious. But these desires may conflict with what you can realistically or legally do. For instance, I may be craving Chick-fil-A at this very moment, and it's right across the street. However, think about the things preventing me from getting those nuggets right now. I'm in the middle of teaching. I may not have money. And if I walk out of my class right now, I may lose my teaching job. My unconscious, however, does not interact with reality. So those impediments don't prevent my desire at all. Because I want those nuggets so badly, I start to develop this anxiety. So, what do we do with these unconscious urges? Or even memories, or thoughts that are unwanted ones, or those that we deem inappropriate? The unconscious mind is governed by something we call the law of transformation. So, two things can happen. One, I will sublimate my inappropriate desire to turn it into or transform it into something socially acceptable. For instance, let's say that I have this deep desire to watch people bleed. I like inflicting pain on others. Clearly, I should seek some psychiatric help. However, I do not want to face that reality of being a violent person. So what do I do with that desire? Remember, because I cannot fulfill it at the time, I'm getting anxious. So I sublimate it. What activity can I do that allows me to inflict pain and watch people bleed and won't be socially frowned upon? I could be an MMA fighter. Now, I'm no longer a person needing psychiatric attention. I'm just a really good fighter. Right? Or I could repress the urge. Here, I take that urge to make people bleed and jam it way down into my subconscious. And then I pretend that it's gone. It's not gone. And in fact, these things even have a way of returning. Freud called it the return of the repressed. So the problem with the law of transformation is that it's a lie that we tell ourselves. Right? Either one, with sublimation, I'm transforming it into something socially acceptable so I don't have to face the reality of myself. Or with repression, I also don't want to face the reality of myself. So I jam it way down in there and pretend that it's gone. But both of these things, instead of being transformed, they need to be resolved. So we're going to stop here for today and we'll pick up on it next time. Have a good day.